Hello and welcome to our fifth lesson. Imagine you almost mastered IFRS 18. Wonderful to see you here again. Are you ready for our fifth lesson? We are going to learn today about operating expenses, aggregation and enhanced presentation. As always, we will have 5 objectives as a form of questions. What are the 2 methods for presenting operating expenses in income statement, and how entities pick one of them? Second objective would be, what are the core principles of aggregation and disaggregation, and how our dissimilar or similar labeling helps us to determine what we can aggregate or what not. As our third objective, we will look at, when presenting operating expenses by function, what other requirements do we have in notes, disclosure requirements? We will look at that. Fourth objective, what restrictions does IFRS put on labels and how it restricts the use of other labeling. Our final objective will be, how do the roles of primary financial statements and notes differ and, in the same time, interact together. Let's quickly move to our first objective and see what are these 2 methods of presenting operating expenses in income statement. We have 2 methods, and this is not new: presenting operating expenses by nature and by function. There is a third method also, mixed approach. I will talk about that a bit later. Let's now concentrate on these 2 methods. By nature presentation, when operating expenses are presented by their substance, without answering the question why these costs are there. They are there and we present them by nature. For example, impairment, salaries, amortization, depreciation, rental expenses, raw material costs, and so on. This kind of presentation without showing for which function these costs were spent on is called presenting expenses by nature. Second approach is to present costs by function. Functional presentation, on the other hand, doesn't look at the substance of the expense, looks at why these costs were incurred at first place, so to which functions they served. And this kind of presentation would be cost of sales, administrative distribution costs, marketing costs, and so on, research and development costs, and so on. So you got the difference. Natural presentation looks the substance without asking the question for what functions these costs were needed. Functional presentation, on the other hand, ignores the substance of the cost, the nature of the cost, as for what function the cost was there at the first place. So both methods are equally accepted, but entities should decide the best method so as to present their results more faithfully and relevant for the users of financial statements. We call it the most useful way that presents the structure, the most structured way that is possible in this case to present our operating expenses. The most useful structured summary. This term we will meet again and again, and that's from IFRS 18. Let's together look at that once, and of course then when we use it, we know that it's about this term. The most useful structured summary of operating expenses. This is the key when we are deciding which method to use. As I said, there is also a mixed approach. We'll look one example a bit later. When deciding, one factor will not be enough to say which method to choose. That's why entities should look multiple factors to come up to